Around this time last year, Korean author Kang won the Nobel Prize in Literature. While that's an incredible achievement, it also tells us something we can't ignore. The Swedish Academy, mostly white men in their 60s and 70s, has a very specific idea of what non-Western literature should look like. Kang's profound style would have made her worthy of the Nobel Prize in Literature alone. But here's the thing, when the Nobel Prize explained why they chose her, they said it was for her intense poetic prose that confronts historical traumas and exposes the fragility of human life, and emphasizes the fact that Kang was born in Gwangju. This has been a recurring pattern throughout around 100 years history of the Nobel Prize in Literature ever since its establishment in 1901. Out of more than about 120 laureates, only a small number have come from non-Western countries, especially laureates from East Asia, including Kang from last year, total fewer than 5. If you look closely at these non-Western laureates, one thing becomes clear. It's something that's been pointed out again and again. The dominant theme in most of their works revolves around narratives of historical trauma, collective memory, resistance against authority, human rights, and women's rights. The Nobel Prize publicly claims to uphold universal values. In reality, these values are largely based on Western, predominantly white standards. Literature from Asia, Africa, Latin America, or the Middle East is primarily recognized only when it aligns with tendencies and expectations the Swedish Academy has practiced. They often give the impression of viewing the non-Western world through the lens of Western civilizational superiority. They frame the changes and conflicts in those societies as a spread of Western values, a shift towards freedom and human rights. From non-Western literature, they expect narratives about striving for these Western-defined universal ideals. Especially, they tend to favor stories about trauma and suffering that focus on the struggles of vulnerable people, oppressed men, and the countless women caught in systems. In the case of the author Kang, the Swedish Academy seems to place greater emphasis on her identity as a female author born in Gwangju. Just as the Nobel Prize praised her for intense poetic prose that confronts historical traumas and exposes the fragility of human life, the keyword Gwangju played a major role in her winning the prize. But the Gwangju incident remains a deep concern for Korea's current generation in their 60s and 70s. The kind of literature the Swedish Academy expects from non-Western countries misses the everyday struggles of today's young people. It doesn't face the harsh realities they endure. Unemployment, tight budgets that make even a single meal feel too expensive, a lack of job opportunities, rising standards for getting hired, and graduate school exams that grow ever more demanding. Chinese writer Lu Xun and Korean writer Lee Kwang-soo left such lasting legacies in the world of literature because they dared to speak out bravely during their time. With their writing, they nailed the spirit of their time and had a powerful influence on everyone living through it. Let me give you an example from my own PhD advisor at Seoul National University. Back then, as a student at Seoul National University during the Gwangju incident, he was detained for standing up to Jeon Do-won's military dictatorship. But he didn't stay silent. Through his writing and speeches, he moved the society of his time. This is a unique power of literature, one that the natural science can't surpass. They confronted their times head-on, piercing the hearts of their contemporaries. Their literature was a driving force that shook the youth into action and pushed the society forward. Today, many young people in Korea feel overwhelmed by the simple struggle to make a living. Suicide rates have reached historic highs, while birth rates have fallen to an all-time low. For these people who find it nearly impossible to climb into the middle class, or even the children of the middle class struggling to hold on to that status, what kind of literature can truly give them strength? Although it's a different cultural form, let me take Bong Joon-ho's film Parasite as an example. Parasite had already drawn millions of viewers within Korea even before it reached international audiences. Countless people connected with the reality of semi-basement life portrayed in the film. They could instantly picture the biting chill seeping through the thin walls, the dampness clinging to their skin, and the musty moldy smell rising from the cracked cement walls. People easily could spend an hour or 2 hours chatting with their friends about what's really wrong and what the government should do about it. It awakened the government and made them ask themselves, what problems do we actually need to fix? So many people found a deep sense of relief when realizing that their stories were not personal misfortunes, but experiences that others are also going through, ones that are fully shareable, as anyone might face at least once. They found the motivation to carry on another day, to keep moving forward step by step. It's a theme, yes, but it carries literary power, a power you want to find in social science or natural science. Humans see only what they want to see. This reminds me the way we perceive the world is always shaped by subjective biases. It's a principle I keep close to my mind not only to discipline my thinking, but also to guide the way I seek to understand others. As a Korean married to a Chinese and living in China, I've had unique chances to closely observe and compare the many aspects of daily lives of Chinese and Koreans firsthand. Among some Koreans, there's an aversion just hearing the word China, like we saw in the recent anti-China protests in Seoul. At the same time, we could encounter some Chinese who are driven by anti-Korean sentiment, judge all Koreans collectively. When we define an entire nation's people by a single stereotype or prejudice, ignoring the diverse lives and unique personalities of each individual, we end up judging them from our own narrow little bubble. I hope for today the Swedish Academy finally lets go of its rigid standards, frames, and stereotypes for non-Western literature, and stops favoring only the voices that fit the shape they've already decided on. I believe the true power of literature lies in its ability to confront society and contribute to real change. This is evident in the fact that even unpolished writing can sometimes reveal truth more deeply than refined writings. Think of the writings written by frontline journalists during the Gwangju incident, or the works of writers who resisted a military dictatorship. Their writings might have lacked literary ornament, but they vividly captured brutal reality and helped drive social transformation. Literature's greatest contribution is its courage. The courage to confront reality and the courage to call on people to change their actions. And this is the kind of literature I hope the Swedish Academy recognizes. Because the literature's value isn't confined to a single frame. It shines most brightly when diverse voices coexist, and especially when it dares to face reality and directly impacts the lives of people living today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video!